Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Split, the young adult book review podcast for readers and writers. I'm Bryan Cohen, the author of the Ted Saves the World series. That is Robert Scanlon, author of the Dreamer Chronicles. And we should have a deck of tarot cards right now, just throwing them out, putting them out there, and we should talk like we from Louisiana, and we should just really get into character. I need my work on my Cajun accent personally. Yeah, how are you doing today, Robert?
Bien sûr, oui. Je vais bien, merci.
Very good.
Ouais, je peux parler un peu de français, si tu veux.
Non, une petite. Un very petite.
Why are we doing this? What's with the tarot, the Louisiana? I can't do a Louisiana accent. What's with
I've got
tarot?
the Louisiana, you've got the French.
Yes.
Combined, we're practically Cajun. Today, we are talking about Poison Princess by Kresley Cole. Really interesting, surprising, good book. And I'll admit, I just bought it during a sale on Audible. I said, Robert, it's got good reviews. Let's check it out. And there we go. It really ended up being... It's among some of my favorite ones that we've done on the show, so I'm really interested to talk about it today.
Yes, well, we won't be split on that. That's for sure.
Yeah. This was a real good one. Yeah. So, as per usual, we'll summarize reader, writer perspective, takeaways, and the prompt. Are you ready for a quick summary?
Very quick summary, because I think there's a lot to talk about with this book. Go for it.
Yes, there is. All right. Evie Green is one of the popular kids in her Louisiana high school, at least until she starts seeing terrifying visions. Shortly after, the Cajun outcast Jack DeVoe takes an interest in her and her secret hallucinations. The world is changed forever, and Evie's visions may have everything to do with it. Will an ancient prophecy light the way to a world-altering battle between good and evil? And will Evie find out which side she's on before it's too late?
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
I know. And like from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, just it's a wave. It's a massive wave. It's a tidal wave of difference of how much the character has transformed from page 1 to page whatever 500.
I know. And
just who she is, how she's changed. It's completely different, which, I mean, major kudos to Kresley Cole for that. I was very stunned by just how far and wide she was able to take something from beginning to end.
Yeah, and this is a great example of what a mismatched title. Because I just thought this was going to be, after having read all these, princess books. That's not going.
Yeah.
Poison Princess. I really had no expectations, and I guess that's a good thing to be as a reader, to have no expectations. And you chose it, so I had a lot of the other books I've seen on lists, and started to arrange a queue, and then between us we worked on them. But like you say, this one you just bought out of the blue. I knew nothing about it, so it was just literally in the queue to read, and I couldn't wait to get back to it. Every day it was really good. And this is an author who obviously has a lot more YA under her belt, but she's very quickly become one of my favourite authors to read more of, and to see if she can deliver that. I mean, this is kind of it's a really strange combination. It's part Hannibal Lecter, part high school drama, mostly a Stephen King-like post-apocalyptic zombie road trip, and this ginormous character arc, and then you stir in all this ancient tarot magic. I mean, it's complex.
And the fact that with all those plates spinning, it's still able to really deliver a complete meal is something that nothing but a deft writer of Kresley Cole's ability would be able to take on.
Just to, sorry to interrupt, just quickly as well, definitely for the older YA reader as well, because there's lots of alcohol and sexual references, as well as lots of discussion about a loss of sexual innocence. It's not in your face, it's just what kids of that ilk would talk about. But definitely it's a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. I mean, well, Evie's 16, but she's just about to be 17, isn't she, I think? Because the apocalypse that wipes out most of humanity happens on her birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And the apocalypse, don't worry, it's not a spoiler because the first scene in the book is set after the apocalypse happens, and then we kind of go back, and the interesting frame story and so many. Like, I wrote down that it's a case of 2 books in one, but like you said, it really is a lot of different books in one. Because we've got our high school drama, and then we've got our post-apocalyptic occult piece. And you could say zombie novel too. You could say mystery novel. You could say all sorts of stuff in this one. But when it comes down to it, very well realized characters and just an interesting concept with the tarot cards made this a really cool read that so much work was put into.
Oh, you definitely work gone into it. As you say, the characters are fantastic. What didn't work so well for me as a reader was having Jack DeVoe's bio accent always spelled out phonetically. That I could have done with less of that. I think that's often something that readers trip up on. But look, plenty of superb literary writers with well recommended a repertoire of stories have used devices like that. So it's really only a personal thing. And there are occasions where, because I know French, I'd say the French is wrong. I mean, there are some things in there that are clearly Bayou French, because I had to look them up.
Definitely some Cajun French.
Yeah, definitely. And I know nothing about Cajun. And do you?
All I know from X-Men's character Gambit, who is Cajun. So that's all I've got for
Bryan's
this conversation.
Stunning admission.
That's all I've got.
I don't know where the Cajuns come from.
I mean, I've never been to Louisiana either, so.
Yeah. Well, I know that Cajun is a contraction, but of something. But please, people who know a lot more than us about
Southern. It's just Southern French, basically. Yeah. Southern American French.
Yeah.
So,
but the 2 characters, though, I mean, because they're so different, it's a really. I mean, if you're going to have a protagonist who's stirred up by a secondary character, and he's really not that secondary when it comes down to it, I guess. The differences between them, I think, is so well written. And at first, when you're reading the first part of the book, you think, high school drama, more of the bad boy arrives at school on a motorbike with his motorbike friends. Yeah. But it actually quickly changes. So
yes.
Don't be scared by that like I was.
Yeah, no, it really does change pretty quickly. And my last reader point, just as a reader, it's one heck of an ending. I mean, it's one of those cliffhangers that resolves things and still opens the door wide open. And if for some reason, I don't know why you'd be hung up anywhere in this book, just push yourself to read to the end, because, I mean, it's pretty great. It's a pretty great ending.
I think it's wonderful. And I think, fans of... This is saying a lot, because this is Stephen King's most favoured novel, The Stand. It's the one that readers love. But I think it's got some comparisons with that are worthy. And okay, it's YA. It doesn't have the depth and soul searching that The Stand has, but it doesn't ramble like The Stand does either. And you're going to be kept page turning, I think. So it's it's great. And I think we talked about the tarot thing as well. Whilst it's there and it's present, it's not the main device, and I think that's really, really clever to invent this whole system of ancient, battles that have been going on for a long time, and it could take over. It could end up being Lord of the Rings style. Oh, here we go. Sauron again. But it's not. It doesn't take away from it. Actually, the main story really is, as I said, more like The Stand, and with.
Well, it's not about the device. It's about the characters.
Exactly.
And that's why it wins.
And that's why there's a lot to learn from a writer's perspective. So, should we move in?
Yes. Talking about the tarot stuff, there's so much deep research into a subject matter, and that can lead to a very realistic paranormal concept. There's comparisons between this and Beautiful Creatures to be made. And you got the Southern, you got, the paranormal family, whatever. But this one, I think, works better because, that one was like made up spells and whatnot. This one, everyone knows that tarot cards are real. They might not know what the tarot cards, what archetypes are on the tarot cards, but they know that tarot cards are real, and they can tell from the sheer amount of research put into this that she really constructed a great story to go along with everything. So for sure, this has, I like this better than Beautiful Creatures regardless, but
yes,
the research really brings this one home.
Yeah, there was a left field surprise, and the whole tarot thing had me a little worried at first, thinking this is going to be some sort of slightly superficial. It is very clever, very, very clever. So also I think that the framing, as you mentioned before, is also interesting. It's often from a writer's perspective recommended not to use a prologue, and if you are going to use a framing device, you risk attaching the reader to the character you've introduced in the framing device, meaning that in this case it's written as a prologue, but frames are not always a prologue. So the story opens with a nameless first-person present tense point of view, but then quickly that frame is dismissed, and then we're into Evie's point of view, which is first-person past tense, and that's where the high school drama starts. So you go from this sort of eerie prologue to then in the high school drama to then fairly quickly moving into the whole apocalyptic thing, but then you get some flash forwards, and it's very. I loved it. I really liked the change of moods, the dialogue between the two characters, the settings, both pre and post apocalypse were really well drawn. The high school drama was typical, but so was the apocalypse was kind of typical. Bodies, smells, problems with food, problems with groups of people trying to take power. The usual tropes, I suppose, but just really well done.
I agree. And speaking of tropes, Southern bad boys are like gold as characters. I feel like I need to write a few into my next book because they're just awesome. They're a gift that keeps on giving.
I'd love to see one come up against Ted, maybe as a girl.
Yeah, I would love. I don't think there's. You haven't gotten to the end of book 4 yet, have you?
No, I have not yet. No.
Yeah, so I don't know when I would put that in, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Did anything trip you up about this book, though? Was there anything that you would say from a writer's perspective?
Personally, for me, no. But I think some readers would be tripped up by the crazy quickness of the apocalypse. It's pretty shocking when it does happen. And I don't think there's anything wrong with delivering the expected thing in an unexpected way. But I'm sure that some people wouldn't go along with it. And, you always check out the reviews. I never read the other reviews. I'm sure that if there's 1 stars of this one, that could be something that comes up. It's just like, all of a sudden the world ended. What the heck?
Yeah, that's right.
But I personally, I didn't have a problem with that. And I think, all more power to you for going for it, because she goes for it.
Oh, she absolutely goes for it. And it's good as well. That because the scientist in me wondered, well, okay, so if we had this flash flare thing that kind of scorched everything, how come some vehicles still work? But you actually explain some kind of pseudoscience in with that later that seems to well, it dismissed it enough for me. I was able to suspend disbelief, and I was really happy to hear that it wasn't another. A bad virus got out of control and wiped out all of America. You know, we're all on these book lists where you get mailed books to read, and so many book summaries start out with, you know, a new strain of some government-invented flu has wiped out the planet and leaving only, okay, look, Stephen King did it, read that. That's all you need to know. There was one thing that tripped me up, and it's so minor, that since I'm a enthusiastic motorcyclist and have been for donkey's years, and I've also owned a string of Ducatis. So they conveniently find this Ducati while they're on their zombie road trip thing. And prior to that, they've been driving along in some kind of city area, and they've been having to run over bodies left, right, and centre. But then something happens and they can't go back to that car. So they're stuck without transport, and they conveniently come across a Ducati, which is, you know, one of the more desirable motorcycles. Okay, fair enough. You might. He picks it up. Hey, it's working. Well. Incredible. Just fires first go. No problem. And so they then jump on the Ducati and then they go zooming off down the road. What happened to the bodies? And, you know, I don't know if you've ever hit anything on a motorcycle, but even running over something as tiny as a small animal is pretty jarring. So, so there's a little bit of a blip there. And
maybe that's why they didn't have any bodies there, because they knew it wouldn't work.
Yeah, well, I think so, but it wasn't explained, and it would have been okay if, if Evie had said, hey, how come there are no bodies here? And Jack could have just shrugged and said, maybe they all went to the cities.
Yeah.
That would have been fine.
I get that.
Yeah, so
I get that.
Like I said, it is so nitpicky. I mean, you know, it's the usual Robert Scanlon, got to find something wrong with it somewhere.
That Robert Scanlon.
But I give this book 6 out of 5 stars.
Very nice. Good recovery. I don't have any more writers' perspectives. Unless you do, we could go into the famous takeaways.
No, I think that's the writer's perspective has been well covered. I really recommend it. I really recommend it from a writer.
Oh yeah, me too.
There's a lot to learn. I'll take it away. Sure, yeah. I would say that this is a great use of paranormal powers when they're not the centerpiece, but they are critical to the story, and that is a really fine line to tread. To make them important, even critical, because the story wouldn't be the story without it. Yet, as you've said, it is not all about the magic. It's really all about Evie and her arc and this interruption in Jack. And look, even the hallucination sequences are great, and I don't normally like those.
Yeah, it was good. Those were good.
So, yeah.
I agree.
Takeaway number 2 for you.
Tying in with the paranormal stuff,
yes,
which is like my new term today. When you connect a paranormal concept with something that people actually fear, like, you know, a kind of pseudo-religion-y, culty, weird thing, you'll get a terrifying and compelling result.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Kresley Cole really pulled that off well in this.
Yeah, that's true. That's where the tarot really lent itself, or the characters within the tarot. I mean, she doesn't deal with it as a tarot in the sense of, like, let's sit around and deal the cards.
Yeah.
Not in the slightest. There's only really flashback references to her grandmother, and that's it. So, yeah, good point. Yeah, very nicely observed. Third thing, we've mentioned the paranormal stuff, and I've got paranormal stuff actually written in my notes here.
Nice.
It would have been tempting to let the paranormal stuff out, you know, all of it out early, but we actually go through similar revelations at the same time as Evie does throughout the story. And so I think when your experience matches the character's arc, the story is always deeper. And you know, you're kind of not guessing ahead. You're not thinking, I know what's going to happen. She's going to find out that this power is going to do this. That never happens.
Yeah.
You know, and the revelations are not kind of just thrown in out of nowhere, they make sense. You go, there's lots of in this book that I really liked, and at multiple levels too. You know, there's plenty of suspense in the plot, in the characters, in the scenes. There's a lot to like, and there's a lot that makes you want to keep reading.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. When you get to experience what the character experiences when they experience it, you don't feel like you're being spoon-fed anything. You feel like you're in the journey along with them.
Yes, I will definitely be prompted to read this again. But speaking of prompts,
did someone say prompted?
Hanging out for it.
All right, prompted up. Of the many tarot cards featured in this book, which do you think best embodies your archetype and why? How would you fit into the post-apocalyptic world of our main characters in Poison Princess?
That'd be pretty interesting, wouldn't it? Do you own a tarot set?
I don't.
No, I don't know. It kind of made me want to go and get one, actually, this reading this book. Because that'd be interesting as some writing exercises. I know you've been doing some daily exercises recently. You know, you could just pull a tarot card out and say, right, here's a character. I'm going to write a short story.
Exactly. Yeah. That is true. It's a cool idea.
For those people listening, Bryan is doing typing type charade sort of. There you go. Perfect. You should just go on YouTube and watch him do this. It's riveting. Oh, shift key. Numbers. He's writing something complicated. Hey, speaking of writing something, folks, everybody listening, yes, that's you. I'm talking to you now. Write your response to Bryan's wonderful prompt in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you thought of Poison Princess. Did you think the title was a misnomer?
Yeah, go to the splitbookreviews.com and enter that stuff in there. Send us an email. Sign up to our email list. All sorts of great stuff that you can do to be more involved with us because we want to know what you like, what you don't like, and what you love about the show.
We want to be involved with you. We want to be involved. Inseparable. Part of your lives. Yeah. Hey, and I've got podcast jealousy as well because I've been hearing these other podcasters saying reviews on iTunes are our lifeblood. They keep us going. They send us to the top of the charts. And Bryan, I've never been at the top of the charts.
I've never been at the top of a chart.
Oh, surely you have. Sure.
Okay, I've never been at the top of a podcast chart.
So please go and leave us a lovely, lovely review over at iTunes. We'd love you for doing that. And then we would
appreciate it.
We would. We'd have no more podcast jealousy whatsoever.
None. Speaking of podcast jealousy, this has nothing to do with podcast jealousy. Next week, we're going to do Paper Towns by John Green. And I'm really excited to hear what Robert has to say about it. It was, John Green he's just cool. I kind of wish I was him a little bit. He's just such a cool guy.
There's your podcast jealousy coming right back at you.
Podcast jealousy.
Because he's a vlogger.
He is a vlogger.
We're
very
vloggers.
Popular vlogger.
We're vloggers.
We're vloggers too. Don't forget us.
Watch. Oh yeah, exactly. I think maybe 5 or 6 people watch every episode.
Every episode. Woohoo!
Well, you know what I hear though about YouTube is that for podcasts specifically, people will go to YouTube, hit the play button, kind of check in with us because you get a real sense of being there with the people you watch, and then you just go off. Let the YouTube thing do, just take the audio and carry on working. So I know a few people listen to podcasts that way. So if you do listen to podcasts that way, love to know.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. Definitely tell us. All right. So that's the end of our show. Thank you for listening. Go check us out on the splitbookreviews.com. Yep. For Robert Scanlon, I'm Bryan Cohen. Thank you for watching The Split, and come check us out for Paper Towns next week.
And get a tarot reading.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robert?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.